Therapists of Reddit, what was your biggest I know I'm not supposed to judge you, but holy shit moment? I was counseling a 13-year-old girl for anxiety and she reported sexual abuse from her stepdad. I called her mom and told her mother I needed to call Child Protective Services. Turns out that CPS was already aware and the abuse was first reported around the patient's age 7. Mom was aware of the abuse and stayed with her husband anyway. It was a complicated situation. And it wasn't. How could she not do more to protect her daughter? Exclamation mark. Sorry lady, I'm judging. Serious question here. How can CPS know there's duckery like that going on and refuse to do anything? How is that legal? My professor once shared what a patient said that made her quit her job. I didn't rate my daughter. She liked it. The daughter was 6. She couldn't take it anymore. She worked in a rehabilitation center for people who have been sentenced for serious crimes and were forced to get mental help. Really difficult job and this pushed her over the edge. Yeah, I couldn't do that job. Seriously, if someone says vile things like that, how do you not react negatively? Once had a patient whose wife shook their baby to death. He wanted help reconnecting with his wife. At the time I was a young father of a newborn myself, and he triggered a lot of fear in me for my own child, a deep loathing of his spouse, and pity, the how pathetic kind, for the patient. I tried for 3 sessions, met his spouse and everything, before handing the case over to my supervisor, who knew about my initial reactions, and tried to help me through it. Unfortunately, it ended up being more about my feelings than his, and I was new to the profession at the time. These things are expected to crop up from time to time, but I was still taken aback by my own reactions. You made the right call. Being taken aback by your own reactions. Deciding to hand off the case. And then, I assume, working through your reactions in supervision or by yourself sounds like a really valuable learning and growth experience. It is standard practice. Different therapists have different schools of thought on how to deal with it though. I had one who insisted that not being able to put aside your personal feelings and help literally everyone was a weakness. Others, better ones, believe that therapists are human too. And we have to be aware of our own experiences and feelings and give ourselves room to be human. If not, we risk unnecessary trauma and burnout. And then we help no one. I do acute pediatric inpatient behavioral therapy. Has never happened with a child. And never will. Parents on the other hand can be real pieces of shit. And the way they treat/abuse their children then throw them off on us and scream fix them. I'm a big burly guy and I've cried many nights over this. You're a hero my man. Big mahalas for all you do. I was once in my psychiatrist's office bi-monthly. 15 minutes med check. She asked me what was going on more as conversation. I told her that in the last 6 weeks, my 3 elders, aunt and 2 uncles, I was guardian/conservator for had died right after the other. My wife had a heart attack. My daughter attempted suicide. And my mom broke her hip and had laid on her floor for a week before being found. She drank and ate from the dog's bowls. I got that call within 10 minutes of setting up the last funeral. She stopped the meeting, got on the phone with a therapist in the office next to her, and had her postpone her next meeting to speak with me. I was so ducked up. I had no idea. I think she saved my life. I really hope you're doing better, man. I feel like a lot of the comments saying that they never judge their clients might be working in voluntary services or they've been very fortunate in their client base. Judgment isn't an inherently bad thing. It's how we know that murdering people is wrong. So when a convicted pedophile client told me, nothing gets me going like a pair of little girls' worn panties, you better believe I judged the duck out of him. I continued to work with him, and I treated him with compassion and respect, because as a human being worthy of both. I did my job, because I'm a professional. But I can't honestly say that I didn't judge him. I judge that he should never be around children. I judge that he is not yet ready for change. I judge that his access to his own daughter should be closely supervised. That's a lot of judgments. Understanding your own inherent biases and how they influence your work is a very important part of training and practice. I think that people here are sometimes using different definitions of judge. That's all. Edit. I work in linguistics, and so many disagreements are just caused by people with different definitions of a term not noticing that. Yes, I think you're right. There's judge as in use your moral faculties to determine right from wrong. And there's judge as in condemn. I've definitely seen both in this thread. Here's my most recent one. As the pandemic worsened here in the US and more lockdowns are on their way, one of my most extroverted clients and I brainstormed ways to meet her social needs while remaining safe. The following week she cancelled her session and told me that she's positive for COVID after attending an orgy, which definitely wasn't one of our ideas. I let out the deepest, most defeated sigh after I hung up the phone. I'm super extroverted and the struggle in 2020 is real. I just spend a lot of time on Discord chatting to people. Amazingly, I haven't caught COVID. Just out of curiosity, did you attend orgies before COVID? Is extroverted a way of saying you're into orgies? Lots of people discussing pedophilia as an example of the toughest stuff to not judge despite our training. I haven't yet treated a pedophile, thankfully. At least not an identified one. I did run a men's anger management group though, and some of those men had done some terrible things to women. Most of them I found ways to like and admire for their positive aspects. But there were two guys in that group I just could never find unconditional positive regard for. One guy basically never spoke in group. He would give one-word answers and occasionally just discuss how unfair the system was to him. I worked really hard to open him up and find things to connect over, but he never opened up to me or the group. He left the group after he strangled his girlfriend and went to jail. She survived, thankfully. The other left group early routinely, showed up late, participated minimally and similarly never wanted to open up honestly. He left early one group after we had discussed him staying to the end and threatened me when I told him he wasn't going to get credit for attendance, something the court required. Oddly, I eventually moved into the apartment below him, completely without knowledge, and listened to him scream at his girlfriend and break shit while I called the cops. I judge these men. They're shitty, maybe they're redeemable, but redemption requires self-exploration, and they both refuse to do so. It's worth noting how differently I felt about them than so many others in the group. Men I found ways to help and admire and respect even in spite of their awful behavior in the past. I can relate to this. My ex used to hit me a lot, usually leaving me with fractured ribs, black eyes, etc. He would hold me on the ground by my hair and kick the shit out of me. If I tried to get away, he would grab me by my legs, pull me back, and it'd get it 100 times worse. When I left him, I didn't contact him for about 3 months. When we finally did talk, he wouldn't even admit what he had done. He wouldn't apologize. Nothing. He would say let's move forward and not look back. I think this type of person is absolutely a lost cause. I'm so glad you are out of this situation now. Leaving can be such a difficult thing because there is always the fear of being followed/stalked after making that decision, and it can be really stressful. I work with youth and adolescents who have anxiety, trauma, and or depression. Some of the kids I worked with had some pretty severe attachment issues. Regardless of this, I never thought I'd have to seriously explain. 1. You can't just buy a straitjacket for your kid. 2. Feeding your kid ultra spicy ramen each night instead of the meal everyone else is eating isn't specifically defined as abuse, but you have to understand the emotional abuse that this causes. 3. Your kid isn't trying to kill you because they stand in your doorway at night, crying. That's likely because they are scared of their traumatic nightmares, but feel like you will just yell at them if they wake you up. Edit. Removed a phrase. Edit 2. Thank you all for your questions and support. This case has really helped to shape my approach to therapy and has highlighted the importance of healthy communication between parents and kids. My number 1 tip: don't let someone else tell you how you feel/think. If someone says, "You're angry with me," or something to that effect, ask yourself if you really are. If you're not actually angry, then don't spend a second more on it. A lot of kids/family members get hung up on trying to justify their own actions according to someone else's perception. Edit 3. Fixed straitjacket spelling. No, it's not a jacket for sexual orientations. As a therapist, at what point do you have to inform the authorities when the family display abusive behaviors towards their children? Not op, but am a child therapist. We report to the state anytime we suspect abuse. Emotional abuse is harder to prove, but we still report, and it's up to the state to 1. Flag it, and 2. Investigate, 3. Find proof, 4. Keep the kid safe. In my state it rarely goes past #1 unless the kid is basically already harmed or their parents odd. I joined in a review of a secluded patient and he threw a cup of wee and poo in my face when we opened the door. I tried to be objective about his experience, but I just thought, what a cunt. I work in inpatient services, so it can be hard to challenge myself at times. Individuals with diagnosis of personality disorder, for example, can do things that in isolation make you think they're just being bratty or manipulative. But to think of the experiences that shape them to react like that in a given situation can help to clear my judgment and find compassion. Harder when someone bites me or hits me with one of our fabulously detachable anti-ligature curtain poles. Though, hey, that home visit sounds brutal. I used to work in pre-hospital medicine with a population that also that bit scratched and flung things, even when they desperately needed help. Glad to know there's someone compassionate like you on the other end. I was a janitor in an institution like that back when I was an older teen, and yeah, shit and piss gets flung a lot, and people will literally jump out of their wheelchairs to tackle you. But it always does make me thankful for the people who do those jobs. Even bathing them, etc. It could be you one day, you know. I work with kiddos who have experienced some kind of abuse/trauma. 90% of my clients have been sexually abused. I have a lot of holy shit moments, but not from judgment of my clients, but from what happened to them. I've had clients whose father made them help him dismember mom's body after dad murdered her in front of them. I've had clients under the age of 8 who have been sex trafficked. I've had clients who have been forced to film torture porn. I have holy shit moments all the time. How do you let these things not affect you? I was placed in a mental hospital when I was younger, and the things I've witnessed there caused me to be diagnosed with PTSD later on. Mostly I couldn't sleep anymore or do anything really because my thoughts were only focused on WTF went down there. Then I did drugs so I could focus on something else. I just wonder how you cope. I think I would break down with my patients. Finally, someone who can relate. Went to an inpatient place at 12. Slightly suicidal and left completely traumatized, and now have been diagnosed with PTSD. While I was there I saw people try to kill each other and had a rapist sexually assault me, and those are just the highlights. LMAO. Started drinking by myself and hearing voices at 14. Love my life. Sorry carrot FOR carrot THE carrot ATTENTION carrot WHORE shit. Hope you're doing well. You're not alone. Clinical psychologist working primarily in forensics here. This means my clients are usually involved in legal proceedings, family court, juvenile court, criminal court, etc. My job is usually to evaluate or provide treatment. I'm not there to judge. That's the judge's job. But of course I have my thoughts. I'm usually impressed by the justifications people make for shitty behavior. The one that irks me the most is when parents manipulate their child against the other parent. I've had to do therapy for a 5-year-old who said she doesn't want to see a parent because they haven't paid child support. Excuse me? What 5-year-old knows, understand, or needs to be worried about child support? I got my father accusing my mother of turning me and my siblings against him. We were 14-yo, 9-yo and 7-yo at the time, and never acknowledged that he was the one doing all kind of shitty things to us. We had 8 years of pure pain with social assistance. We got ducked by familiarist CPS who only thought about the good for the family. I'm kinda sensible to this argument as it has been using against me, my siblings and my mother. Edit. I see that many children are, or have been in my situation. Specialists tried to mark us with PAS, parental alienation syndrome. A really controversial syndrome that isn't really official, but neither was proven wrong at the time. CPS ducked me too as a kid, not wanting to split up the family after me and my sister told them the emotional and mental abuse our father put us through. Fuck CPS. I work at a residential group home. We had a kid who we had admitted about 4 months prior. When in a family session they mentioned they had parasites. I'm like, what? Question mark? Question mark? Mom goes, oh yeah, our whole family has them. We don't believe in getting rid of them, since they're part of our biological ecosystem, and I'm just dumbstruck. We spent 3 weeks afterwards convincing this family it was an infectious disease concerns, as other residents have fecal eating behaviors and various other unsanitary issues that could cause a unit spread. 3 weeks of education, planning, and worst of all convincing this kid and mother that their IQ wouldn't drop because they had agreed to irradiate the parasites. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Lots of CBT work. But Jesus, it took way longer than any of my team expected. Opposite side. If that's accepted too. I was assigned to see the lead psychologist at the local hospital as I was severely depressed and had become suicidal. She literally rolled her eyes at me, told me to grow up, and said she could be having appointments with people who were actually about to kill themselves. Not me, who was already working with the team. This sent me absolutely spinning. Bottling everything up, thinking I didn't deserve help, and ended up in hospital 2 years later after an attempt. When they looked at my records, the hospital suddenly became very interested in any psychological experts I'd previously spoken to. Informed them of the above incident. They asked if I knew the name, and I said I didn't. But they had a strong accent. They immediately looked like they were about to burst out crying. Apologized excessively, then informed me they had been fired a year ago. No idea how many people were affected by that therapist. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.